In the quiet, peaceful community of Oak Ridge Meadows, where the sun sets over acres of farmland and the world feels far removed from the chaos of the city, Elliot Harper thought he had finally found a sanctuary. After years of serving as a decorated Army Ranger, he bought Lot 44 as a haven for himself and his daughter, Lily, a place where they could escape the trauma of war and embrace the calm of rural life. But peace, as Elliot would soon discover, was fleeting. When Loretta Grayson, a sharp-tongued corporate transplant, took control of the Homeowners Association, Oak Ridge Meadows was turned into a battlefield. What began as petty fines and absurd rules soon escalated into threats of violence and intimidation. Now, with his daughter caught in the middle of it all, Elliot must confront the darkest side of power, fight to protect his family, and expose the corruption that has taken root in their community. The afternoon sun hung low over Oak Ridge Meadows, its warm rays stretching long shadows across my 5-acre farm. As I rolled down the driveway, the peaceful scene shattered in an instant. There, looming like an impending storm, stood 3 leather-clad bikers. They were surrounding my daughter, Lily Harper, who was backed against a chicken coop, her face pale and gripped by fear. She clutched her project notebook in her trembling hands, a lifeline to the world she once knew. The roaring engines of their Harleys blocked the way to our house, their chrome gleaming with an unsettling menace. I'd spent 22 years serving as an Army Ranger, facing death in 6 combat tours, and I thought I'd found peace here. But this was something entirely different. The Oak Ridge Meadows Homeowners Association, HOA, led by Loretta Grayson, had escalated from petty fines to outright intimidation. These bikers didn't know who they were dealing with, nor did they realize that their world was about to crumble in a matter of minutes. How far would you go to protect your child when strangers corner them on your own land? For me, the answer was simple: everything. This moment was about to expose the dark, corrupt empire that had held Oak Ridge Meadows in its grip. The truth would bring it all crashing down. Oak Ridge Meadows had been my sanctuary after retirement, a place to breathe, to heal, and to live a life far from the chaos I'd known in my military career. Lot 44, a modest piece of land at the end of Cedar Lane, was far enough from the noise to offer us peace. I was Elliot Harper, once a colonel in the 75th Ranger Regiment, now just a man who spent his days in a workshop, living quietly with my daughter Lily. She had grown up too fast while I was overseas. 3 years ago, I bought this place for her. For us, it was a space for her 4-H projects, a scholarship shop for vet school, and a barn where I could focus on woodworking, trading battle plans for dovetail joints. At first, the HOA seemed harmless. Their meetings were short, the fees were reasonable, and the rules kept the community orderly. It was exactly what I needed, a place where neighbors minded their own business. But that all changed when Loretta Grayson took over as HOA president 2 years ago. She was a slick corporate transplant from the city, always in sharp suits and with a sharper tongue. Her promises of modernization and value optimization sounded good on the surface, but within months, the HOA became her personal fiefdom. Arbitrary rules sprang up everywhere, and enforcement was ruthless. Citations for mailboxes an inch too high, grass a half-inch too long. I complied, adjusted, and kept my head down. But trouble began the moment I questioned her $500,000 improvement fund at a meeting. The fees had been raised repeatedly, but there were no visible upgrades to show for it. Where was the money going? Loretta's face hardened when I asked. She snapped, "Finances aren't for debate," and the room fell silent. The board members, all too afraid to speak, shifted in their seats. I'd seen this before, one bully pushing everyone else into submission. Retaliation came swiftly. Lily's 4-H chicken project, which she had poured her heart into, became the target. Despite our agricultural zoning and county approval, the HOA declared her livestock unauthorized. A certified letter threatened to fine us $100 a day unless we removed the chickens within 48 hours. Lily, devastated, had spent months building a proper coop, caring for heritage breeds, and logging every aspect of the project for sustainability. I appealed, submitted proof of zoning, and requested a hearing. Loretta doubled down, insisting the coop design violated guidelines. Then came fines for excessive vehicles when Lily's 4-H group visited. Each attempt to fix one issue only led to another violation. It was clear the HOA wanted us out. Lily cried, asking, "Why do they hate us?" I pulled her close and whispered, "It's not you, Lily. It's about power." That Tuesday started like any other. Lily texted me, saying she'd be home early to prepare for her project. I headed to Miller's Hardware to grab supplies for the coop. Edna Miller, the store owner, mentioned how the HOA was still stirring trouble with Lily's chickens. "Nothing we can't handle," I said, trying to keep my spirits up. But as I drove back, the crisp spring air suddenly felt heavy. That's when I saw them, 3 bikers, their Harleys roaring as they cornered Lily by the chicken coop. The biggest one, snarling, jabbed a finger at the chickens. "Chickens go when the HOA says so," he barked. Lily, her bright yellow shirt standing out like a beacon, was frozen in fear. Her eyes were wide with terror, the same kind of fear I had seen in war-torn villages. A black Cadillac Escalade sat idling down the street, Loretta Grayson inside, filming the scene on her phone. I parked the truck, the engine still running, and activated my security system. Cameras captured every angle, including the bikers' red Iron Vipers vests. I recognized the club from my post-retirement work with the FBI's Organized Crime Task Force. These weren't outlaws. They were hired muscle, dirty enough for this job, but not untouchable. I assessed the leader. At 6 feet 2 inches and 240 pounds, he looked like a walking tank. His right boot, steel-toed, stomped into the dirt. The second one was muscular and covered in tattoos. Ex-military, I guessed. The third one, younger and twitchy, had his hand near his waist. Maybe armed. I took a deep breath. "Gentlemen," I called, my voice steady. "That's my daughter. Step away." Lily's shoulders relaxed, but she didn't move. The leader, Doyle, let out a laugh, flashing a gold tooth. "Elia Harper, Lot 44. 3 warnings, 7 violations. HOA says chickens go." He took a step toward Lily. "She stays till we're clear." "You work for the HOA?" I asked, already knowing the answer. Doyle grinned. "Community compliance specialists. Helping you understand civic duty. Specialists who intimidate kids?" I shot back, my voice firm. His smirk faltered, but he shrugged it off. "Just talking rules." 20 feet now, Lily." I commanded, using my Ranger voice, the one that cut through chaos. She moved, but Doyle grabbed her arm. "Not done, sweetheart. Your daddy needs clarity." That was his fatal mistake. I didn't hesitate. 5 seconds to release her. I warned, my voice low and lethal. His grip tightened and I counted, each number a step closer to him realizing his mistake. 5. He hesitated, unsure. 4. 3. Lily broke free and ran. 2. The biker's eyes locked on me, uncertainty creeping in. 1. I dialed, my gaze unflinching. Sierra Tango 7, Crimson Delta 3, Iron Vipers, immediate containment. A voice on the other end confirmed. "Colonel Harper, assets 3 minutes out." Doyle paled. "Colonel Harper?" The second biker, Vance, hissed. "The Ranger." I was done with games. They were about to learn what happens when you mess with my family. "We're screwed," Kyle muttered, his voice trembling as he looked around, realizing the depth of the mess they were in. The youngest of the 3 bikers, panic etched into his face. He threw his hands up in frustration. "Nobody said it was you." Black Suburbans roared onto the scene, screeching to a halt, effectively blocking all possible exits. The sudden, overwhelming presence of law enforcement and muscle from Loretta's side had Doyle on his knees, begging for mercy. "We didn't know," he stammered. "Loretta paid us to scare you." Kyle's voice cracked as he added, "I'm on parole." I stood firm, my voice cold as steel. "You touched my daughter. Time's up for operatives." My old team, led by Mike Walsh, had been waiting for the moment. The cavalry was here, and they were ready. Colonel Mike nodded at me from behind the Suburbans, the well-oiled machine of justice moving into place. Doyle, realizing his fate was sealed, blurted out the truth. Loretta wanted your land, condos, golf course tie-in. $2,000 to push you out. Mike's eyes narrowed. Nice catch. The Vipers are on our RICO list. Just as Loretta's Escalade revved up, a third Suburban arrived, boxing her in from all sides. Sheriff Nathan Tate, an old friend of mine, stepped out with a grin. Hell of a reunion, Elliot. With that, things moved quickly. Lily, safe in my arms, showed me her journal, proof of everything. Loretta's drive-bys, her threats, the control she tried to impose on us. Mike's tablet pinged as it synced with the investigation. Texts from Loretta to Doyle were still fresh on the screen. Scare them. Use the girl. The pieces clicked into place. RICO. Gold conspiracy. Intimidation. Mike nodded, the wheels of justice beginning to turn. Doyle, beaten but broken, confessed it all. 3 families, he whispered, his voice heavy with guilt. Wilson's, Garkis, and Chun's. Prime lots. Or dissent. I clenched my fists. Loretta's power wasn't just about fines and intimidation. It was about control, about draining the life out of our community. And her brother? I asked, my voice steady. Mike didn't flinch. Horizon Realty. Scooping up cheap sales and funneling HOA funds through no-bid contracts. Loretta had done more than threaten us. She'd been conducting a quiet war takeover, to steal the land, to build an empire of her own design. I had proof. My cameras had caught Loretta herself filming the harassment, stalking our mailbox with a tracker. More evidence than we needed. Over 200 neighbors crowded into my barn for the town hall. They were stunned, their faces full of disbelief as the truth unfolded. Martha Wilson, one of the families directly impacted, wept openly. They scared our grandkids, she said through her tears. Carlos Garcia's family had been forced to sell their land after daily fines. Ellen Chun was targeted with racial threats. Loretta had buried the financials, manipulated everything to her advantage. But not anymore. Lily stood up, her voice calm, powerful. They thought we'd break alone. But we're a community, not prey. Cheers erupted from the crowd. News outlets swarmed. Cameras flashing as Loretta was handcuffed. Her empire crumbling in front of everyone. A $645,000 audit trail led straight to Loretta's lake house, not the roads she claimed were being fixed. Her brother, 2 officials, and Loretta herself faced 27 charges: fraud, racketeering, harassment, 8 years each. Lily's chickens had won more than the war for our peace. They earned her a $10,000 scholarship. Her coop, once a symbol of defiance, had become a community hub, a space where neighbors now gathered and shared their triumphs. Doyle, in a turn of fate, had been reformed. He worked now, fixing homes, earning redemption in the very town he had once terrorized. Oak Ridge Meadows had rewritten its own charter. It was open, fair, and no longer subject to Loretta's whims. My law-capped fines and mandated audits, ensuring that no one could ever hold this community hostage again. Lily, my brave daughter, had her sights set higher. I want to go to law school, Dad, she told me one evening, her voice steady with resolve. You fought with truth, she said, smiling up at me as our barn hosted cookouts, and kids learned farming. Neighbors actually talked. Really talked. Loretta's tracker was gone. The eggs we once worried would be taken from us now fed the needy, a symbol of our strength. From fear, we had built something stronger. Family, unbreakable and proud. And as I watched my daughter, confident and growing, I knew Oak Ridge Meadows was no longer the place it once was. It was something better. Something real. Something we built together. What began as a quiet life in Oak Ridge Meadows became a fight for justice, community, and family. Through unwavering determination and the strength of truth, Elliot and Lily Harper brought down the empire Loretta Grayson had built. The community, once fractured by fear, now stands united. What Loretta failed to realize was that a man who has faced war will stop at nothing to protect what matters most. Oak Ridge Meadows is no longer under the shadow of her control. Instead, it's a place where family, integrity, and fairness reign supreme. And in the end, the battle was not just for land. It was for the soul of their home.